The Life of Archie Andrews. Archibald Archie Andrews is a main character on the CW's Riverdale. He's portrayed by KJ Apa. Archie was a student at Riverdale High School, a budding musician, and a football player for the Riverdale Bulldogs. His team number was number 9, given to him by Coach Clayton. This number was originally Jason Blossom's jersey, so Archie took it upon himself to retire the jersey in Jason's honor and took the number 17 in its place. Archie used to be the captain of the football team, but decided to defer his status as captain to Reggie Mantle after he felt more of an affinity with his music. Archie has been best friends with Jughead Jones and Betty Cooper since childhood. Betty develops feelings for Archie, which she ends up revealing to him. However, he doesn't reciprocate her feelings and decides to stay just friends with Betty, which causes a minor and temporary strain in their relationship. He is instead drawn to the new rich girl named Veronica Lodge, who had just moved into Riverdale from New York following the arrest of her wealthy billionaire father, Hiram Lodge, after he committed fraud and embezzlement. He and Veronica eventually began dating. He also occasionally helps out his father at their family's construction site, Andrews Construction. He was also an eyewitness to his father's shooting at Pop's Chocolate Shop by the Black Hood. In response to the threat, Archie founded the Red Circle, a group formed to hunt down the Black Hood, as he felt that local law enforcement was failing to apprehend the menace, although the group has been inactive since the death of the Black Hood. Shortly after Hiram's release from prison, he began to take Archie in under his wing and mentor him, given his relationship with Veronica. However, as Archie realized that Hiram was guiding him down a dark path, their relationship soured and Hiram framed Archie for the murder of Cassidy Bullock, for which Archie spent some time at Leopold and Loeb Juvenile Detention Center after pleading guilty to spare his friends and family the agony of a drawn-out trial. However, with help from his friends, Archie would escape the detention center and hide out in Canada for several weeks before returning to Riverdale, where he and Hiram came to a truce. With his newfound freedom, Archie began to pursue a career in boxing and started training with Tom Keller at the local gym before being gifted a community center by Hiram Lodge near the Sweetwater Docks, which Archie would later rename to the Fred Andrews Community Center in his late father's honor and use it to uplift the community. While dealing with his father's passing for a short period of time, Archie became a dark-suited vigilante to protect Riverdale from local thugs. He, Betty, and Veronica would later come together and help Jughead fake his death in order to expose the preppies at Stonewall Prep. It was during this time that his feelings for Betty began to be remanifested, which resulted in a transgressive kiss. Archie would go on to reveal this to Veronica during prom, which led to them breaking up. With his relationship with Veronica having ended, and faced with the fact that he'd have to repeat senior year, Archie enlisted in the Army. Welcome to the Amagi 2. In today's video, we're going over the life of Archie Andrews. Before we begin, we publish a new video every week, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media accounts. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Early life. Archie grew up in Riverdale, the only child of Fred and Mary Andrews. At the age of 13, his parents separated and his mother moved to Chicago, leaving him to be raised by his father. Archie, Betty Cooper, and Jughead Jones are childhood friends. Archie has known Betty since they were 4, and they've been best friends ever since. They have always gone to the same schools and been in the same classes. When he was in the 2nd grade, he was having trouble reading, so his teacher suggested that he should be held back a year. However, Betty was so against the thought of her and Archie not being in the same grade that she took it upon herself to tutor him every day. When he passed, Archie kissed Betty and asked her to marry him. She told him they were too young, but to ask again when they are 18, and she'd say yes. As he entered his adolescence, Archie started attending Riverdale High School, where he joined the football team. He spent the summer before his sophomore year working at his father's construction company, Andrews Construction. Like his friendship with Betty, things were fine between Archie and Jughead until they had a falling out in the summer of 2017, which temporarily strained their friendship. This proved to be a defining summer for Archie, as he embarked on an illicit affair with his music teacher, Geraldine Grundy. During one of their trysts, they were startled by the sound of a gunshot ringing through the morning air. He later discovered that his fellow classmate, Jason Blossom, had died under mysterious circumstances. Fearful that their relationship would be discovered, he and Miss Grundy kept what they knew secret. Secret love affair with Ms. Grundy. The night before returning to school, Archie reunited with Betty at Pop's chocolate shop after a summer apart, where he revealed to her that he wanted to pursue his newly found passion for music. As Betty was on the brink of confessing her romantic feelings for him, he was distracted by the appearance of a new girl, Veronica Lodge. Archie immediately appeared interested, and so Betty stayed silent. At school the next day, Archie approached Josie and the Pussycats with the intention of offering them some songs he had written, but was rebuffed. He also asked Ms. Grundy to listen to his songs, but she was wary and wanted to distance herself from him after the events of the past summer. Archie expressed his uneasiness about what happened to Jason, but they agreed that they had to remain silent. At football tryouts, Archie was offered Jason's spot on the varsity team, despite being only a sophomore. Archie was reluctant to accept, citing his father's desire for him to help out with the construction company as an excuse. He then ran into Betty and Veronica and agreed to go with them to the back-to-school dance. When he got home, his dad confronted him after receiving a phone call from Coach Clayton, claiming that Archie would be working for the construction company, despite the fact that he had earlier told his father that he would be playing football. Archie revealed that he wanted to study music and had no desire to take over the family business. At the dance later that evening, Archie managed to persuade Ms. Grundy to agree to an independent study so that he could work on his music. Betty finally revealed her feelings to him, to Archie's dismay. To make matters worse, at the after-party, Cheryl Blossom coerced Archie into playing 7 Minutes in Heaven with Veronica. They ended up kissing against their better judgment, and returned to the party to find that Betty had left in distress. Archie set off in search of her, going first to Pop's chocolate shop, where he found Jughead instead. Jughead told him to talk to her as it would have worked with him. When Archie eventually returned to Betty's house, he told her that he loved her, but he couldn't give her the answer she wanted as he wasn't good enough for her. Although this wasn't his intention, Betty was deeply hurt by this. The following morning, after the discovery of Jason Blossom's body at Sweetwater River, Archie and Fred stood alongside the shore as he was brought in and taken away. Unable to sleep as his guilty conscience kept him awake, Archie texted Betty hoping they could talk. Unfortunately, she was not yet ready to talk to him after he turned her down the night of the semi-formal. Despite it being the late hour of the night, Archie made his way to Geraldine's house where he reminded her of the gunshot that they had both heard on July 4th. This could have been the shot that killed Jason Blossom, and since they knew something that the police didn't, which is when it was fired, Archie thought it best to inform the authorities of this detail. However, Geraldine refused to go to the police because that could result in her arrest and Archie's suspension. She figured they'd be better off leaving it to be discovered by the coroner during Jason's autopsy. The next morning, his dad revealed that he had heard Archie sneak out last night, to which Archie explained that he was going on a jog as Jason's death had been weighing on him. Before leaving, Archie received a surprise visit from Betty, who asked him to walk with her to school. She explained her emotional state and where she'd like to go from that point on in their friendship. Archie was relieved to learn that she wanted to remain friends. On his way to class, Archie stopped by the display case, which featured Jason in the Riverdale Bulldogs uniform. He then nervously looked away from Mr. Weatherby as they announced to the school that Jason's death would be treated as a homicide. He was then confronted by Jughead, who explained that they were supposed to go on a road trip over the 4th of July weekend, which Archie bailed on at the last minute. Jughead wondered if Archie had possibly been hiding something. In class, Archie asked to be partnered with Cheryl during class in order to talk to her alone. Notably, they hadn't talked since the summer, but Archie wanted to give his condolences on the loss of her brother. He asked if the police had any leads in the case. Unfortunately, they didn't. But Cheryl's twin tuition was telling her that it was someone they all knew. Archie was joined at lunch by Betty, Veronica, and Kevin as he wrote one of his songs, which both Veronica and Betty insisted that he play for them. At their request, Archie performed his song for everyone in attendance. Sadly, it struck an unforeseen nerve in Betty, and she left the lunch table crying. The current rift in their relationship overwhelmed Betty. She could no longer pretend that the previous weekend never happened. Before she could get a word in, Mr. Weatherby called him over, hoping to talk about the look they had earlier exchanged. Archie claimed that he was distracted and wasn't feeling well, but Weatherby wasn't buying it. He told Archie if there was something he needed to get off his chest, perhaps about Jason, he'd be there to listen. Archie immediately ran to Geraldine and informed her of his latest encounter, but he wanted to know from her if what they had was real, because if it wasn't, he didn't know what he was protecting. Geraldine sensuously grabbed his hand, claiming that what they had was indeed real even if it wasn't right, and she told him that if he ever told Weatherby the truth, they could never see each other again. That evening, he ran into Veronica as he picked up an order from Pop's shop. He then met Hermione Lodge, Victoria's mother and an old friend of his father. Before leaving, Hermione volunteered Archie to walk Veronica home. They talked about their mutually disintegrating friendship with Betty. He told Veronica about his past with Betty, how they first met, and how she'd always been there for him in his time of need, so he hated that he had hurt her. After dropping Veronica off, Archie discovered Jughead waiting for him on his front porch, who revealed to Archie that he knew about his affair with Ms. Grundy. Archie explained that he liked her and that their relationship had been going on since the summer. He then went on to tell Jughead that they were at Sweetwater River on July 4th and they heard the gunshot that potentially killed Jason Blossom. Informing the police would get Geraldine in trouble, which Archie could not do as they cared for each other, but Jughead submitted that she only cared about herself. Archie shut Jughead down as he tried to offer some friendly advice. The Archie he knew wasn't perfect, but he at least always tried to do the right thing. In the student lounge, Archie and Reggie got into a fistfight after Reggie threatened Jughead. Unfortunately for Archie, he was on the losing side of the fight, which left nothing but a black eye. Once home, he told his father that the black eye was from Reggie, and that the argument Fred had stumbled upon the previous night between him and Jughead was over a girl. Archie thought that they should do something, and it's the right thing, but if Archie does it, the girl says it would ruin what they have. Fred explained that he has to do the right thing at whatever the cost, even if it'll potentially ruin his relationship. During the pep rally, Archie approached Geraldine to tell her that he would be coming clean to Weatherby and Sheriff Keller about the gunshot. Although he respected her choice to stay out of it, he couldn't sit back and do nothing. After talking to Geraldine, Archie went over to Jughead and informed him that he'd be telling Weatherby about the gunshot on July 4th. He then apologized for the things he said to him the other night. This was the beginning of a long road to mending their friendship. Following the pep rally, Archie and Jughead joined Betty and Veronica in a booth at Pop's shop. The next morning, Archie prepared to come forward about the gunshot at Sweetwater. However, Sheriff Keller and Weatherby were more concerned with Cheryl, as she admitted being guilty. The following morning, after Cheryl had explained what she meant by being guilty, Archie finally decided to tell the police that he'd also heard the gunshot that morning by the lakeside, which backed up Cheryl's claim of hearing gunfire as well. However, as promised, he didn't include Mrs. Grundy in the confession. His cover story was that he was there with his dog, working on some songs that early morning. When he returned home that evening, his father had learned about his confession and confronted him on it. Fred assumed that he had been lied to as Archie claimed that he and Jughead would be on a road trip that July 4th, but Archie explained that he didn't want to drag his father into it, which was an error in judgment as their argument resulted in Archie being grounded for 2 weeks. They were going to crucify Cheryl if Archie didn't assist by corroborating her story about the gunshot, which is what he tried to explain to Geraldine the next day. He left her name out so he didn't see it as a big deal, but to Geraldine it was a very big deal. Because of his do-gooder tendency, he was currently wrapped up in a murder case, meaning if Sheriff Keller decided to dig, he could find out about them. With that in mind, Geraldine suspended their lessons. Cheryl thanked Archie in class for coming forward about the gunshot. In return, she granted him one wish, which Archie took her up on. He wanted Josie's assistance in helping him with his music. Cheryl came through on her end as Josie met up with Archie in the student lounge. She explained that the Pussycats would be rehearsing every night that week in preparation for the Taste of Riverdale. Archie was welcome to quietly sit in. Despite being grounded, Archie crept out of the house that night to attend the Pussycats' rehearsal. Upon Josie's arrival, he explained that he wanted to record and play his songs, make them better, which Josie found to be quite amusing as she didn't believe that he was qualified to write for the Pussycats, who are divas of color. He was reminded by Josie that while Riverdale was opening up, there were still a lot of closed-minded people. He learned that they were called the Pussycats because they had to claw their way into the same rooms that someone like Archie could just walk into, so he couldn't possibly write her experience. But Archie may have managed to win her over with his suggestions on tweaking their song. Fred caught Archie sneaking back into the house after a night at rehearsal with the Pussycats. Archie was scolded for breaking curfew, which led to a heated argument as Fred wouldn't allow him to attend the Taste of Riverdale event. Archie wasn't happy that his father didn't understand his interest in music, as Fred would have pardoned him if he had a football game that night, but he wouldn't do the same for his music. Despite his father being perfectly clear on Archie not attending the Taste of Riverdale, he sneaked in anyway and watched from the second floor with Jughead, as Josie and the Pussycats performed a song that he helped work on. In the distance, he saw Fred engaging in a conversation with his music teacher, Ms. Grundy. They talked about Archie's music skills, in which Ms. Grundy assured Fred of his son's talents and how he's a special kid. Upon hearing this, the next day, Fred made the garage soundproof for Archie to continue practicing his music. Thrilled that his father finally believed in his passion, Archie went to thank Ms. Grundy for talking his dad into respecting his choice to pursue music, and he asked if they could restart their music lessons, which then resulted in sex. Archie and Fred attended Ms. Grundy's cello performance. Thereafter, they congratulated her on the beautiful playing and invited her out to dinner, to which Archie wasn't too keen on. Upon their arrival at Pop's shop, Archie was approached by Betty, who asked to speak with him alone as she confronted Archie on his love affair with Grundy. At that moment, Veronica walked into the conversation, just as shocked by the scandal as anyone else. Archie looked to Ronnie for backup. However, she was on Betty's side, arguing that what he and Ms. Grundy were doing was wrong, as he had lied to Sheriff Keller and all of his friends in order to protect Geraldine, as she believed in him when no one else did. The next day at school, Archie asked Jughead how hard it would have been for a heads up, and if Betty would be writing about him and Grundy in the paper like she did with Chuck Clayton. Archie wasn't sure what would happen in the long run with him and Grundy, but he wanted to hold on to what they had for as long as he could. He sat down at Pop's shop with Betty and Veronica, both of whom had done online research on Geraldine. They discovered that 1 year ago, she apparently appeared out of thin air. All her social media accounts only date back 1 year. Before that, there was no record of her existence. The only Geraldine Grundy they could find was an elderly woman that had died 7 years prior. Archie wondered if they cyberstalked Ms. Grundy before or after Betty had her fake interview with her. He wasn't in any danger, so he questioned why Betty was so concerned when he wasn't, saying that if she was really his friend, she would let it go. With that in mind, Betty assured him that she would stop digging into Ms. Grundy's past. Archie spent his night with Geraldine, watching old movies at her place. After his conversation with Betty and Veronica, he wanted to know more about her, such as if she'd always wanted to be a teacher. She told him that she had a dream of playing at a major symphony, but sometimes that's all they ever are, dreams. Archie then asked if what they had was a dream, to which Geraldine asked if it would be so bad if it was, because she thought of it as a nice dream, but Archie couldn't help but wonder where it would all end. Archie approached his home to find Betty and Veronica waiting for him. They found a gun in Grundy's car and an ID with the name Jennifer Gibson. This, along with the fact that she taught Jason Blossom and asked Archie to lie for her, was more than enough for Betty to suspect her as the possible killer. Even in spite of all the evidence, Archie still defended Geraldine, but he wasn't quite sure why. The next day, with so many questions weighing on him, Archie finally decided to ask Geraldine about her past, starting with her real name and why she even moved to Riverdale. Geraldine told him that she had a drunk, abusive husband. One night, he beat her to the point where she was in the ER with broken ribs and a shattered collarbone. He promised it wouldn't happen again, but when it did, she divorced him, changed her name, and moved to Riverdale. After leaving her house, Archie informed Betty of all he had learned from Geraldine, all of which explained why she had a fake identity and a gun. Archie claimed that he was going to deal with the situation involving Geraldine, but on his terms, not Betty's. That night, Archie paid Geraldine a surprise visit at school. He gave her an expensive cello bow as a thank you for all her help. While he didn't want to end their lessons, that's exactly what he thought they should do. The bow was a don't forget me gift. Moments later, Mrs. Cooper came bursting into the classroom with Fred and Betty, all three fully aware of what had actually been going on between Archie and Geraldine. Mrs. Cooper wanted to turn the situation over to Sheriff Keller, which Archie refused to allow, stating that everything that happened, he wanted to happen. Betty asked why her mother was putting Geraldine on trial, to which she replied that it was more about Archie and her wanting to expose him for the person that he was. Archie admitted that he was selfish and stupid, but he pleaded with Alice to leave Grundy alone. However, there was no getting through to her, as Mrs. Cooper even threatened to inform the neighbors. Had she done that, Betty would have told the town how she robbed Geraldine and made up the story of her affair with Archie, which would lead everyone to think what many already believe, which is that crazy runs in the Cooper family. Hearing this, Mrs. Cooper agreed to keep quiet so long as Geraldine quit her job and left town. Unfortunately, Archie wasn't too satisfied with the arrangement. Archie sat in his father's truck crying as they pulled up to the house. His father told him that he was none of those things that he had earlier said about himself and that it wasn't his fault. He then hugged him. A little later, Archie received a text from Betty saying that she was sorry. He texted back, telling her it was okay. Choosing between music and football. Archie pounded on a punching bag all night long in an effort to get back in fighting shape for football. With Coach Clayton preparing to set a starting lineup and name a new team captain, Archie needed to be at the top of his game, as football would get him a scholarship to college where he could then study music. The next morning during practice, Archie took a hard hit on the field due to his lack in focus, which Coach wasn't too pleased with. In the locker room, Coach called over Reggie, who also had his eye on team captain, and pitted the two players against each other. Whoever impressed him the most within a week would be named the next team captain. Archie attempted to smooth things over with Reggie, but he wasn't interested, claiming that he was the only one deserving of wearing Jason Blossom's jersey. Archie was joined by Betty, Jughead, Veronica, and Kevin as he sat in the bleachers studying his index cards that were labeled with football plays. Veronica asked how his life was in the PG, post-Grundy world, but with his eye on the spot as varsity captain, Archie wasn't connecting himself with much else. Betty wondered if he was throwing himself into football in order to avoid his feelings. Archie claimed that he wasn't avoiding anything, that he was only trying to get his life back on track, which Valerie offered to help with since she knew of an amazing songwriter from New York, Oscar Castillo, who at the time was assisting at Carson College. She told Oscar about Archie, as she did some coaching on the side, and was willing to mentor Archie if possible. But with football season coming up, it would be difficult. Archie thanked Val nonetheless. Cheryl then showed up and invited each of them to Jason Blossom's memorial. In the locker room, after some reflecting, Archie decided to take Valerie up on her offer and contact Oscar. Archie informed him that he began writing songs that summer after a kid at his school died. The first song he wrote was about him. Archie only writes a couple hours a day, but he planned to do more once football season ended. Archie then handed Oscar a USB drive with his music. However, he was expecting sheet music. Oscar didn't teach performance. For them to even be processed in a constructive way, they needed to be on the same page. Archie spent that night in his room writing down the music with Valerie. She was surprised with how quickly he caught on. His father entered the room, surprised by Valerie's presence, as he wasn't aware she was there, which led to a lot of rambling on from Fred until Archie stopped him, saying that they were busy working on his music. Back on the field, Archie struggled to remember the plays, having to write them on his arm, which wasn't much help as he was still clueless during practice, leaving him open to attack from Reggie, who unintentionally injured Archie's hand during one of his plays. Fortunately, Archie managed to pull off one successful play, but as Reggie helped him up, he realized that Archie's hand was busted, yet Archie refused to sit out. Veronica later found him sitting on a bench wrapping his playing hand. She assisted him, while at the same time wondering if he was punishing himself. Archie explained that he had hurt his hand because he didn't know the play, and he didn't know the play because he was up writing music all night instead of studying. She finished wrapping his hand and told him to take better care of it, since it would be worth millions one day. Archie met with Oscar as planned, who described Archie's songs as juvenile and repetitive, which is why he didn't think he had anything to offer Archie. That weekend, Archie attended Jason's memorial along with Jughead, Betty, Veronica, Kevin, and Valerie. Unexpectedly, he approached Penelope Blossom, giving his condolences, then handing over Jason's jersey. But Penelope couldn't see past how much he looked like Jason. She stroked his hair before apologizing and thanking Archie for the kind gesture. Following the memorial, Archie and Valerie grabbed a booth at Pop's shop. Archie wondered if Ms. Grundy had possibly lied to him about his talent, but Val didn't understand why he was questioning himself. She explained that doing what they're doing is hard, almost impossible. But Valerie wondered if it wasn't his coach, his father, or Oscar holding him back. Maybe it was himself. 1 week had passed, and as promised, Coach was ready to pick a new captain. He chose Archie after that stunt he pulled with giving the Blossom family Jason's jersey, which Coach believed to be showing of a good leader. However, Archie turned down the role as team captain because he needed to focus on pursuing his music career, but he still wanted to be on the team. Archie started the day off with looking through an old toy chest for his guitar strap. However, he would first find a werewolf mask, which left him uneasy. At school, he auditioned for the 75th annual variety show, but he choked. The players in the stands, Reggie and Moose included, were suddenly wearing werewolf masks as the pressure weighed on him. As the host of the event, Kevin allowed Archie to take his time. However, he didn't seem to need it as he stormed off stage. He told Valerie that when he was up on stage looking out, he froze, which is unlike him. When he's on the football field, the stands can be packed and it wouldn't affect his game. Archie believed his stage fright was based on his need for a team, or at least a partner, so he asked Valerie if she'd sing with him. Sadly, Valerie had to decline his offer because she was a pussycat, meaning Josie would never allow it. Thanks to Veronica, who spoke to Kevin, Archie had a shot in the variety show if he still wanted it. Playing his songs in front of his friends is completely different from playing it on stage by himself, to which Veronica explained that she was both a willing and able singing partner. Archie was then informed by his father that he had bought tickets for all the guys at Andrews Construction to see him perform. His father would also be attending with Hermione, and he wanted to know if it was something Archie was okay with, which he was, saying that both he and his mother were good. Archie and Valerie performed one of his songs in the student lounge the next day. To Veronica's surprise, she had been replaced, which she was not too pleased with, calling him a Ginger Judas. Archie sensed from her tone that her attitude towards him was more than just about the variety show. He was right. Veronica's true anger stemmed from the fact that his father kissed her mother, which Archie didn't see the problem in since they were both into each other, and his parents were separated. He asked if Veronica wanted to talk about it, or if he wanted her spot back, but she abruptly exited. It wasn't long before he and Valerie saw her again, but this time strutting down the hallway with Josie and Melody as the latest member of the Pussycats. Archie and Valerie practiced their performance in his garage, but he could sense that she was in a mood. Valerie explained that the tension he was feeling came from the fact that she was taking a huge risk by quitting the Pussycats. She found their voice with them years ago. Archie attended the dinner proposal that night at the Pembrokes, which was hosted by his father and Hermione, hoping that it would win Fred the construction contract for the new land. After the dinner, Archie asked his father if he would be mad if he screwed up at the variety show, to which Fred responded that he'd be proud of Archie whether he killed it or not, simply because he had the courage to do it. The day of the variety show, Archie had to let Valerie go. He didn't want to be the guy that broke up the Beatles. He revealed that Josie's father was in town, which Valerie realized was reasoning for Josie's recent attitude, and with that in mind, she could renegotiate. Following the Pussycats' performance, it was Archie's turn to get on stage, but before doing so, he had a brief discussion with Veronica where they both apologized to each other for their earlier actions. Archie nervously took the stage alone that night. However, he performed his song amazingly. The entire crowd was impressed. He left the stage and entered the hall to be pleasantly greeted by the other performers and players on the football team, as well as Valerie, where they hugged and shared a kiss. Archie appeared in Jughead's dream, where he claimed Jughead stabbed him in his back, as he literally had a kitchen knife sticking out of his back. That morning, he ran into Jughead after showering in the boys' locker room at the high school. Archie wondered what Jughead was doing there so early. He came to find out that Jughead had been living in a forgotten closet under a staircase, and that he had been living at the Twilight Drive-In before that. His home situation wasn't too good. Jughead's dad fell off the wagon after being fired by Archie's dad. Archie then did what any best friend would do. He offered Jughead to stay at his house, which Jughead declined as the situation was only temporary. In the student lounge, Archie noticed a moment shared between Jughead and Betty, where he put his arm around her as she told them about the current situation with Polly. Despite her parents not wanting to go to the police, Archie suggested that Betty does it anyway, but Betty decided against it. Afterward, Archie caught up with Jughead and confronted him about a comment he had earlier made about not telling Betty about his living situation. Archie surmised this was due to the fact that Jughead and Betty were a couple, which Jughead admitted was true. He then went on to say that his father was willing to give Jughead's father another chance, but only if FP wanted it. Archie thought it would be a good idea if Jughead went to talk to his father as well. Archie assisted in the search party throughout Evergreen Forest for Polly. They initially headed east toward Sweetwater River. He apologized to Betty for not being there to help with her sister, which Betty said was okay as he was there helping at that moment. In celebration of FP's first successful day back at Andrews Construction, Archie, Fred, Jughead, and FP went out to eat at Pop's shop, where the two fathers told stories about their younger years. After dinner, Archie, Jughead, and FP rocked out in the garage. FP complimented him on his skills, claiming Archie was far better than his father. Before he could leave, Archie asked FP what he meant when he had earlier said that Fred owed him, to which FP explained that he got into trouble after working some odd jobs to support his family. Fred bailed him out, however, he wanted nothing to do with FP afterward. Following his jam session with FP, Archie confronted Fred with the story he had previously heard that night. Fred explained that FP was stealing from the company and selling things on the side. Fred gave him many chances, but FP insisted on screwing up every time. Fred told Archie that you can't save someone from drowning if they're going to drag you down with them, but Archie didn't believe it was fair for Jughead to drown with FP. The next day, Archie, Betty, and Fred headed down to the sheriff's station as Jughead was taken into custody and interrogated. To Archie's surprise, his father lied to Sheriff Keller, claiming that Jughead was tearing down drywall for Andrews Construction on July 11th, which Fred later falsified a time card to prove. Archie was shocked at how good his father was at falsifying work documents, as if he had done it before. After a tearful moment between FP and Jughead, after leaving the station, Archie once again extended an invitation for Jughead to live with him as FP got himself together. Jughead initially said no, but later ended up staying there anyway. Archie then apologized about how things went with his father and Jughead's. Saving the family business. A late night of gaming ensued for Archie and Jughead, like two roommates in a college dorm. That is, until Fred entered the room to inform the boys that it was time to call it a night, but not before noticing the awful smell coursing throughout Archie's room. Fred then informed them that he'd be breaking ground on the Sodale project the next morning, before telling them good night. The following night, Archie returned home from his date with Valerie to discover that his father hadn't been plain-spoken about the severity of danger that Andrews Construction was facing. The company had been in trouble for a long time, so many problems with so little that he could actually do. Fred worked his butt off to build that company, but in one false step, he could lose everything. Yet Archie assured him that they wouldn't be losing anything. The next day, Archie, Jughead, Kevin, and Moose volunteered to aid Fred in keeping the Sodale project on schedule until he could find a real crew. Jughead commented how handy Archie was with the wheelbarrow, joking that if his music career never paid off, he could always have manual labor as a fallback. Although his father's path was not for him, Archie acknowledged how hard his father had worked for him, never asking for anything, and always having his back, even when Archie messed up. If having his father's back meant that he had to haul some rocks, he'd be more than willing to accommodate. As the day came to an end, the boys returned to the trailer, but Moose had forgotten his phone back at the project site, and as he got there, he was ambushed by two thugs who warned them to stop construction or else they'd be back. Upon Sheriff Keller's arrival, Archie confessed that he believed the Southside Serpents to be Moose's attackers, as they would have been furious after having to leave their own territory due to the construction. However, the sheriff wasn't convinced that there was anything he could do without an ID on the attackers, to which Archie called him out for not doing more. Had it been Clifford Blossom that needed the sheriff's help, he would have agreed. In his room the next day, Archie paced back and forth, wondering what his next move should be after the attack at Andrews Construction, whatever it was. Valerie only hoped that he'd talk to her and not do something that he'd eventually end up regretting. After several unanswered texts from Jughead, Archie found him at Pop's shop with Betty and Veronica. Archie and Moose were going to the south side in order to find the serpents that potentially attacked Moose. Kevin's boyfriend, who was also a serpent, could get them into a bar called the White Worm. It was a known hangout for the serpents. The plan consisted of them going in, and if Moose spotted either of his attackers, they'd call Sheriff Keller. With Cliff Blossom trying to stop the construction and Keller blowing his father off the night before, someone had to take action. Archie asked if Jughead would be joining him, which he didn't. At the bar, Moose pointed out Mustang, a serpent and possibly one of his attackers. Despite their initial plan to call the cops, Archie confronted Mustang head-on, asking if he liked beating up teenagers. But the serpent had no time for games, as Archie wasn't the first bulldog to come into the bar and start up trouble. He shoved Archie, and Archie shoved back, which would have escalated had FP not been there to break up the fight. Archie, Kevin, and Moose were escorted out of the bar by FP, but he demanded that Archie stay behind. Archie then explained that his reasoning for being at the worm and how he came to the conclusion that the serpents were at the center of it, the fact that FP was a serpent only confirmed his suspicion. He figured it was personal, payback at Fred for firing him. FP denied all allegations. He informed Archie that life was too short. Just then, Fred pulled up and told him to get in the truck. However, after his father was distracted with FP, Archie sneaked out of the truck and confronted Jughead at Polly's baby shower, but Veronica checked them both and led Archie out the door, telling them to settle it at a later time. Archie returned home after leaving the baby shower, where he had a heart-to-heart with his father. Archie only wanted to help Fred the same way he had always helped him. Fred went on about how bad things had gotten, everything from their family falling apart to Archie's future. He spent his entire life building things, but now he couldn't seem to get them to work out for him. And at that moment, it became apparent that his father was losing his will, but Archie refused to accept it. He'd been thinking, what if he had a kid someday that hated music and instead wanted to build houses and buildings like Fred? Archie expressed how cool he thought that was. Building things was Fred's legacy, making it Archie's too. He toyed with his guitar later that night until Jughead returned home, during which time the two of them discussed how they should always trust each other as brothers. As Archie tuned his guitar that morning in the music room, Cheryl entered with an invitation for him to escort her to her family's annual event, the tree tapping ceremony. That week was the official start of the maple season, and she needed a date, as for obvious reasons, Jason would not be able to attend. Admittedly, Archie would love to help her. However, he could not accept her invitation because he had a girlfriend, though he suggested that she ask Kevin or Reggie. Unfortunately, Cheryl did not want Kevin or Reggie. She desired Archie, as he was the only person to defend her against Sheriff Keller, even when her parents did not. Soon after his talk with Cheryl, he was confronted by her mother, Mrs. Blossom, who was aware of Archie's passion for music and capable of getting him into the Brandenburg Music Academy, which was a school for the musically gifted, though hard to get into. Mrs. Blossom recalled how Archie brought her Jason's football jersey during his memorial. That was a gesture of kindness during a moment of despair for her family, making Archie a good person in her eyes. Mrs. Blossom insisted that Archie escort Cheryl. It would only be an afternoon, and it would mean the world to Cheryl, which Archie finally came around to agree to. In the lounge, Archie celebrated with his friends over the possibility that he would be accepted into the exclusive summer music program. Jughead and Veronica questioned the validity of Archie's agreement with the Blossoms, but Betty thought it was a great idea, then asking Archie if he could check on Polly while he was there. The next day, as the tree tapping ceremony was about to commence, Cheryl instructed Archie to hold the bucket steady. She would do the rest. He wondered who all the unfamiliar guests were, to which Cheryl explained that they were her father's board of trustees. They were worried that Cliff was losing his grip on the company, and if this was to be proven true, they would join together to steal it from him. Jason's death was a PR debacle. Polly being pregnant and unwed definitely did not help the situation. He joined Cheryl as she was called up to stake the tree. Archie gave Cheryl a pep talk, telling her that she could do it in her sleep, and just like he said, she did it without a hitch. Following the group photo, just as Betty asked, Archie checked in on Polly. He asked why she was not returning Betty's calls since she fought for her, and now Polly was treating Betty as if she was the enemy, to which Polly replied that she was fine. Hearing about how Aunt Cricket and Uncle Bedford were insulting Cheryl, Archie came to her defense, informing them that Cheryl loved Jason. She did as much to help the Bulldogs win as he did. He also had a 4.0 GPA. So if there was one thing he learned from Cheryl, it was that she should not be underestimated or betted against. A little while later, Mr. Blossom admitted that he was taken aback when Cheryl revealed that she wanted Archie to escort her to the tapping, considering how he and Archie's father were not seeing eye to eye at the moment. Archie explained that he was there for Cheryl, and because he was grateful for them getting him into the music academy. The Blossoms could be quite generous, Cliff said, and he wanted Archie to escort Cheryl to the Blossom banquet being held later that week at the Belmont Lodge. Archie commented that he was an Andrews. A fancy dinner was not exactly their kind of scene, but this was precisely why Cliff wanted him in attendance. People like him and his father were the bedrock of Riverdale. So Archie accepted. After the tree tapping, Archie informed Betty and her mother of all that he had learned that day, starting with Polly, who was not coming back and was being treated great by the Blossoms. He then informed Mrs. Cooper that the Blossoms' business was in jeopardy after the scandal with Jason and Polly. The Board of Trustees might seek to steal the company from Mr. Blossom. The following night, he received a surprise visit from Cheryl, who wished to thank him with a brand new guitar for agreeing to escort her to the banquet. Cheryl kissed him on the cheek and then left. Fred advised him to give it back, but Archie reminded him that the Blossoms were going to get him into the best music program in the country. They believed in his potential. Fred informed Archie that the Blossoms were no friend to them. They were only using Archie, as he and his father were nothing more to them than dirt under their shoe. Archie was taken to the local tailor to get sized for the suit he would wear to the banquet. But before they moved on to measurements for the pants, Archie wanted to talk to Mr. Blossom. His father's company was having troubles, so he was wondering if the Blossoms could help his father in Andrew's construction instead of helping him with the music program. Mr. Blossom was impressed at the lengths Archie was willing to go for his father. He tried to imagine if Jason would have done the same for him, but he was not sure that he would. It spoke to Archie's character. Mr. Blossom informed him that they had already given the Academy a call. However, after the banquet, he would be willing to discuss what the Blossoms could do for his father. The next day, Valerie informed Archie that she had just had a chat with Cheryl, who believed that she was going to steal Archie away, which Archie insisted was not true. Valerie did not blame Cheryl. Between the new guitar and the new suit, it was obvious that they were buying Archie, which he did not mind so long as it helped his father and gained him access to the music program. Archie wondered what Val would do in his situation, to which she explained that if he had to ask, then he did not know her at all. As promised, Archie escorted Cheryl to the banquet that week. She told him that her parents' kind ways were not genuine, as they wanted her to fail the tapping. Just then, Mr. Blossom requested to speak with him privately. He had decided to help his father since Archie had helped them. The Andrews had a bright future with the Blossoms. Archie reminded him that they did not have to keep doing him favors. He liked Cheryl and was happy to be there for her as a friend. Though Cheryl was a bright girl, the trustees were skeptical of having her play an active role in the company. But if someone with Archie's character were at her side to temper her erratic behavior, they would be more inclined. Basically, having Archie with Cheryl created an appealing picture. Polly interrupted the two of them, asking to have the first dance with Archie. She explained that the Blossoms had something to do with Jason's death, and she was there to figure out how, but she needed Archie to get Betty to back off. Upon that discovery, he noticed Cheryl storm off after a fight with her father, in which Archie followed her out to the pool in order to check on her. Cheryl felt as if everyone hated her, but Archie did not want her to worry about them because he thought she was awesome, which is why Cheryl often thought that Archie was the only decent person left in Riverdale. Cheryl then kissed Archie. Taken by surprise, all Archie could do was walk off. However, while doing so, he stumbled upon Cliff and Penelope, who were boasting about how Cliff got Veronica's father arrested. On the other side of the lodge, Cheryl had finally caught up. Archie revealed that he could no longer be a part of the arrangement with the Blossoms. Cheryl reminded him of all the good they had done would go away too. Archie claimed that he was there as a favor to her mom, but Cheryl corrected him, saying that he was there because he wanted something from them, making him no better than the others. The next day, Archie caught up with Valerie to tell her that he was done with the Blossoms, and to admit that she was right about him being bought and taking shortcuts. Unfortunately, Valerie was done with him as she was sick of being ignored, and unlike him, she would not be bought. Archie went to Jughead and Betty at the Blue and Gold offices with one last piece of information. He informed them that he overheard the Blossoms talking about sending Veronica's father to jail. Pursuing Veronica. Before his father left for Chicago to finalize the divorce with his mother, Archie and Fred had a quick chat on the front porch, in which Fred explained that with the divorce papers and legal documents settling up, they would be able to put the entire unfortunate situation behind them. Archie questioned if his father's sudden urgency to finalize the divorce was a result of his relationship with Hermione Lodge. But according to Fred, this was not the reason, as he had already ended that romance. Knowing this, Archie wondered if it was possible for his mother and father to fix what was broken after 2 years of separation. He had spoken to her the previous week. She failed to mention anything about a divorce. But this was due to Mary not wanting to be the bearer of bad news. Archie asked if he could join his father. However, Fred denied his request, saying it was something only to be handled by him and Mary. At school later that day, Archie and a hesitant Betty informed Veronica that while at the Blossom family tree tapping, he overheard Clifford Blossom say that he was responsible for Hiram Lodge's incarceration. Immediately after this, Archie told Betty that Jughead's birthday was coming up, but not to make a big deal out of it because he hated his birthday. For the last few years, he and Jughead went to a double feature at the Bijou. It became a tradition. But since Jughead had a girlfriend this time around, Archie thought it best if Betty took him alone, as he did not want to be a third wheel. During lunch, Archie exchanged tension-filled looks from across the cafeteria with Valerie and Melody. Having learned from Jughead's father that he never had a birthday party, a claim that Archie corroborated, Betty suggested that they throw him a low-key surprise party, which Veronica and Kevin were all for. However, Archie informed them that it was a terrible idea, considering that Jughead hated his birthday. Just then, Chuck Clayton entered the cafeteria, headed toward Ethel's table, which was quite the surprise to Archie since he was under the impression that Chuck had been expelled. After thinking it over, he decided to hop on board with the plan to throw a surprise party, even volunteering his house as the location. After revealing to Jughead that night that he had told Betty about his birthday and that she would be accompanying him to the Bijou, Archie wondered why Jughead despised his birthday so passionately. When Jughead was a kid, his life was always messed up, and then his birthday would come, and then they would pretend as if everything was normal, which consequently made him feel lonely. Archie received a call from his dad, who was checking in. He asked if his father had seen his mother yet, which he hadn't. His father thought it would be better if they talked when the lawyers were present. This only further disappointed Archie, as his parents could not communicate to one another without a mediator. That night, Archie had some pre-game drinking before the party even started, denying any claims of being drunk despite the aroma of alcohol protruding from him as Jughead and Betty returned from the Bijou. After greeting one another, Betty brought out the cake and sung to Jughead, but Veronica took off before he could even blow out the candles, with Archie right behind to check on her. Veronica was not willing to talk about it, so Archie offered her a drink, then informing her that his parents were about to finalize their divorce. His mom wanted to leave Riverdale, his dad wanted to stay, and so did Archie. Veronica then told Archie how her own father threatened to destroy her mother if she did not testify on his behalf, which left Veronica in an uneasy state, leading Archie to give her a hug that Jughead and Betty walked in on. The doorbell rang just as the couple began to fight. Outside was Cheryl and Chuck, along with a few dozen classmates all ready to party. Despite being completely aware of Jughead's stance on the party, Archie invited everyone in, telling Moose that one keg could go into the kitchen and the other in the back, then proceeding to take to the dance floor. As Valerie arrived, he went searching for Jughead for advice, and upon finding him in the garage, Jughead expressed his disappointment in Archie because it was his job to make sure his birthday never turned out the way it just did. Archie insisted it was Betty's idea, and that he simply went along with it. Furthermore, she's his girlfriend, meaning Jughead gets a birthday party whether he wants one or not, resulting in conflict. Outside the house, he approached Valerie hoping to talk about their breakup, but she was not willing to hear it. Val broke up with Archie because she thought he was a hot mess, and his demeanor at the party only supported that conclusion, which then led to Archie getting embarrassed as she spilled her entire drink all over him. Facing a time of difficulty, Archie went up to his room and called his father. Meanwhile, Chuck and Cheryl blocked off the front door as Jughead attempted to leave, announcing that they would all be playing a game called Secrets and Sins, which called for them to reveal their secrets to everyone. Unfortunately, during this game, Dilton Doily revealed that Ms. Grundy's car was at Sweetwater River on July 4th, and that Archie was there as well, essentially making Archie's relationship with Grundy public information amongst the students. The game shifted to Betty as Chuck retold the story that led to his suspension. Archie attempted to defend her, but Chuck shut him down, saying he may get a sneak peek every night, but he did not know Betty. Where Archie failed in Betty's defense, Jughead did not, punching Chuck right in the face. However, Chuck struck back, resulting in FP dragging him out of the house and ending the party altogether. As the house finally settled down, Archie and Veronica chatted on the couch about failings within their respective lives. Archie admitted to drunk dialing his dad. He told him not to sign the divorce papers, but he's not sure why. He doesn't want his parents to get back together. He then wondered what life would have been like had he made different choices, such as moving to Chicago with his mother. And while this was not a question Veronica could answer, had he moved, they would never have met, which would have been a tragedy of epic proportions. He acknowledged how messed up he was. They all are. But Archie was less messed up than most, Veronica said. The two of them began to kiss. The next morning, Archie woke up and immediately began cleaning, while he was ignoring his father's calls at the same time. Jughead then asked about him and Veronica as he caught her sneaking out earlier that morning. Archie managed to get the house clean just as his father returned. Much to his surprise, he was not alone. Archie's mother had returned with him. Archie sat at the dining room table eating breakfast alongside his mother. He knew the reason she returned to Riverdale was because of the divorce and the drunk phone call he had made. He explained to his mother that he was fine. His friends were amazing, him and his father were closer than ever before, and he had even been singing and songwriting. His mother had hoped that he would play her some songs before she left, which he was more than happy to, then mentioning that he would be performing at homecoming, the perfect opportunity for her to see him play live. Upon arriving at school, he apologized to Veronica for not calling her back. He was preoccupied with his mother's surprise return, but Veronica claimed he didn't owe her an explanation. From this, Archie concluded that she was going to pretend as if their moment at Jughead's party never occurred. Veronica pulled him over to the side, And while neither of them regretted the beautiful but fleeting moment they had had, Veronica didn't have the bandwidth to be with anyone at the moment. In that case, Archie asked if they could at least do the duet together at homecoming. Veronica declined his offer as there were a million reasons why they had to pretend their kiss never happened. After learning that Cheryl and Polly would be campaigning as co-queens of the homecoming dance, Archie asked Betty if he could play a couple songs during the event, as he had already told his mother that he would. Initially hesitant, as Archie's style of songwriting was dark, Betty agreed to let him play once Veronica announced that she would be performing upbeat songs with him. In an empty classroom, where they could talk privately, Archie asked Veronica what led to her sudden change of heart. It was brought on by her need of Archie's assistance in breaking into FP's trailer in search of any evidence that might indicate he had some kind of involvement in the murder of Jason Blossom. Because if FP was involved, then more likely so was her dad. Even though FP and Hiram had business in the past, going from vandalism to murder was a big leap. Archie was shocked to learn Veronica was working with Mrs. Cooper, but she was going to keep FP busy while they broke into the trailer. However, Archie refused to go behind Jughead's back. Archie then came home to find his parents in the kitchen, together and happy. It was nice, but strange after them being apart for so long. Jughead then entered the kitchen, leading Mary to ask who else would be attending the dance other than her and Fred, which was a pleasant surprise for Archie because his parents wanted to be together just to see him play. Later that night, as he and Jughead prepared for bed, Jughead questioned if there was a scenario where Archie's mom and dad might rekindle their romance. Archie saw it as nothing more than a pipe dream, but Jughead had more faith, especially since stranger things had happened, like his father getting clean and going to work every day. Jughead thought it was time for him to move back home, but Archie said to hold off on that just to make sure it sticks. Jughead was sure it would. FP even read and engaged in his work. Archie found this to be strangely suspicious as FP had shown no interest in Jughead's writing in the past. He quickly came up with a poorly formed excuse to leave the house, which Jughead saw right through, but didn't bother to do much questioning, as he assumed Archie was off for a late-night rendezvous with Veronica. Jughead was right. Archie did leave to visit Veronica in Pembroke, but he did so to finally agree to help her search FP's trailer, hoping that he could prevent Jughead from being hurt any further. The following night, just before homecoming, Archie and Veronica made their way over to the trailer. Under an old and rusty lawn gnome was a spare key. Archie commented that it was in the same place from when he and Jughead were kids. They entered the trailer, though they failed to find anything that indicated FP had any involvement in Jason's murder. Veronica became increasingly aggravated, leading Archie to wonder what it was that she was looking for, or if she just wanted her father to be guilty. Archie wasn't sure what would happen once her father came home, but he would be right there next to her when the time came, and maybe he was wrong, but not finding anything felt like a major win for the home team to him. Veronica smirked. Through her darkest time, Archie was there with a smile on his face and a sports metaphor, she said, just as they kissed, and subsequently left the trailer. As they arrived at the dance, they informed Mrs. Cooper of how they failed to find anything. Then they were spotted by Betty, who confronted them both on it, but they couldn't talk as it was time to perform. After Archie and Veronica took the stage and performed Kids in America, they were confronted once more by Betty, in which they decided to tell her the truth about their alliance with her mother. Jughead then came around the corner and immediately noticed something was wrong, so Archie and Veronica told him the truth as well. Archie went behind his back, but he did it to protect Jughead, and he was sorry for it. After news got out that FP was arrested for the murder of Jason Blossom, Archie returned home with his parents. In the kitchen, his mother told him that FP had always had his demons, even in spite of how much he had changed, or so it had seemed. His mother wanted him to move back to Chicago with her. Riverdale wasn't safe anymore. She felt like it was about to slide off a mountainside, and she didn't want him around when it happened, so Archie promised her that he would consider it. Archie and Veronica hit up Pop's shop in search of Jughead, but they found Betty and informed her that the police had found the gun that killed Jason in FP's closet. The problem with that is Archie searched the closet and never saw it, meaning that after they left, someone planted it there to frame FP. Archie and Veronica reiterated to Betty that someone planted the gun in FP's trailer. Archie stated that they needed to tell Jughead that his father was innocent, but no one could seem to find him and he wasn't answering their calls. In the meantime, Archie suggested they go to their parents with this discovery because his father would know what to do. However, it didn't go as well as planned. Their parents were furious at what they had done, but Archie explained that they had to make sure FP wasn't involved in the murder of Jason Blossom. Archie insisted that there wasn't a gun when they broke in, and if their parents didn't believe in them, they'd go to Sheriff Keller without them. Unfortunately, Archie's mother informed him that he and Veronica entered FP's residence illegally, so anything they did or did not find would be inadmissible in the court of law. He didn't care about the consequences of his actions, but his father did. FP wasn't going to ruin Archie's life. A little while later, he received a text from Betty, who was worried about Jughead, as was he. The two of them went out looking for him together, starting with the bus station, but he wasn't there. Archie thought that the station had to have been where he was headed, because their talk in the hall made it seem as if he wanted to get to his mom in Ohio. He then got a call from Veronica, who was just looking to talk, but he and Betty were too busy looking for Jughead. Veronica explained to him that the only place Jughead could be at that time of night was Pop's shop because it was open 24/7. They found him sitting alone in a booth just as Veronica said, each of them apologizing for their betrayal, but something good came from breaking in because the gun wasn't in there initially. The four of them made their way to the station to inform Sheriff Keller of their discovery, but they were too late as FP had already confessed to killing Jason. The next day at school, they learned from the police report that FP worked alone. Archie stated that there was no mention of Veronica's father. Although Veronica couldn't help but think that maybe he hired another serpent to plant the gun, Archie secretly held her hand under the table to provide comfort and ease her mind. They were then joined by Kevin, who was concerned with Jughead. He wasn't doing well, Archie said. He also wouldn't be in school that day, and he was being interrogated down at the station. Despite his initial decision to stay home, Jughead made a surprising appearance in the cafeteria that morning to apologize to Cheryl. However, it went terribly, as she attacked him in a fit of rage, forcing Archie to break it up by pulling her off. Unfortunately, Mr. Weatherby wasn't too pleased, yelling at Jughead to come with him, even as Archie tried to explain the situation. Upon returning home that night, he learned from his father that Weatherby called, and suggested that Jughead finish the semester from home, as he wanted to avoid another altercation like the one that took place with Cheryl. Essentially, Jughead was being kicked out because he was attacked, which Archie remarked wasn't fair. He wanted to call the school board, but Fred reminded him that they had to think of a long-term solution. But Archie believed that they were the solution. Sadly, that's not how it worked, as Fred wasn't Jughead's legal guardian, which was why it was a good thing his mom was in town, Archie said. His father informed him that his job was to keep Archie safe, though Archie found it absurd that he needed to be kept safe from Jughead. But in actuality, Fred was referring to the trouble that always seemed to follow the Jones family around. Fred then exclaimed that maybe Archie should move in with his mother to Chicago. However, this was an offer that Archie hadn't even been considering, but maybe he should. Just then, Jughead came down, having heard the entire conversation. He volunteered to sleep in the garage that night. The following morning, he woke Jughead up, and the two of them met up with Archie's mother at Pop's to discuss FP's case. His mother passed herself off as FP's attorney to get as much information on the case as possible. Between his list of priors, the anonymous tip, the possession of the murder weapon, and his confession, it wasn't looking good. She did, however, mention that he used his one call to contact Joaquin. Archie relayed this information to Veronica, and the two of them, along with Kevin, called Joaquin over to ask him about FP and his possible involvement with Veronica's father. Joaquin admitted that he had always assumed that FP killed Jason, because on July 11th he received a late-night call from FP to help with a clean job at the White Worm. When Joaquin got there, he saw Jason's body lying on the ground, so they stuffed him in the freezer and cleaned up the mess. FP had done jobs for Hiram in the past, so Veronica asked if killing Jason was one of them. Joaquin wasn't entirely sure, but he recalled the one discussion about a rich guy that he had overheard between FP and Mustang, the same serpent that Archie got into a fight with. Joaquin then took them to the City Center Motor Hotel, Mustang's home, but once inside, Archie discovered his body inside the bathtub. Upon the arrival of the authorities and their parents, Sheriff Keller questioned what he and Veronica were even doing at the hotel, to which Archie explained that they knew Mustang was a serpent, so they wanted to talk to him about FP. As they headed back to the truck, Archie's father pleaded with him to stop his investigation of Jason's murder. That path would leave him dead. Fred was simply trying to protect him. It was his job, the only one that counted. As Fred asked him if he understood, Archie's voice cracked as he said yes. From Jughead, Betty, and Kevin, Archie learned of a contingency plan put together by Joaquin and FP that had been deemed as too dangerous by the latter. Apparently, the plan consisted of Jason's varsity jacket, leading Archie to question how it would help FP. Just as it seemed that all hope was lost, Betty refused to give up, so he was made to put the varsity jacket on by Betty as she searched the pockets, and as she suspected, there was something they had missed. It was a USB flash drive inside the lining of the jacket. The flash drive housed surveillance video of the night Jason died, so they watched the video from start to finish. Everything from Jason being taunted by Mustang to the gunshot that ended his life, which was fired by his own father, Clifford Blossom. After watching the video and handing the USB off to Mrs. Cooper, Archie said goodbye to his mother that night as she was returning to Chicago. Archie decided to stay because his friends needed him, but he'd visit for the summer, then giving his mother a hug and saying that he loved her as she left. Archie entered the kitchen that morning to find his father quietly staring out the window. Archie called out to him just to check on how he was doing. His father thought that he knew Riverdale, but in the light of recent events, he wasn't so sure anymore. Archie was fine, but he was concerned with his friends, Jughead, Betty, and Veronica, all of whom were still in the midst of the mess. Shortly after this conversation, Archie and Betty walked to school together. They talked about her household, in which her family was back together, but they had resorted back to their typical way of pretending that all was fine with their perfect family. After parting ways with Betty, Archie and Veronica discussed telling Betty about their romance. Archie insisted that they proceed with caution. Following Archie and Veronica's agreed-upon decision to tell Betty the truth, he and Betty were coincidentally called to Mr. Weatherby's office. Mayor McCoy sought to feature both of them at the Jubilee. Archie and Betty were the most fitting to represent Riverdale because of their influence in the solving of Jason Blossom's murder case. Mayor McCoy had hoped that Archie would join Josie and the Pussycats on stage during the event, which was a nice sentiment, but he couldn't help but wonder about Jughead, who perhaps played the largest role in solving Jason's case. While Jughead was welcome to attend, Mayor McCoy was against featuring him for his honorable actions due to FP's imprisonment. After being dismissed, he and Betty met up with Jughead, Veronica, and Kevin in the cafeteria to talk about FP's case, in which the Southside Serpents were being villainized and falsely accused of drug trafficking. The knowledge of this injustice infuriated Betty to the point that she decided to address it head-on by writing an article on it since the town had changed and that needed to be acknowledged instead of avoided. In response to the topic on hand of deceitfulness and being afraid of the truth, though initially hesitant, Archie and Veronica took that opportunity to tell Betty that they had kissed a couple of times, which she was accepting of. Despite Betty's earlier admission to being okay with Archie and Veronica's relationship, he decided to check with her again because the last time she said that she was fine, it turned out she wasn't. Betty insisted that she was genuinely happy for them. He said that he liked Veronica a lot, but a little part of him always thought, and just before he could finish, Betty cut him off to acknowledge how lucky they were to find the people that they were meant to be with, and that they were all friends. With Archie set to play alongside the Pussycats at the Jubilee, he had hoped that Josie would allow them to play one of his new songs, which was admittedly amazing. However, Mayor McCoy had already pre-selected a song. Not to mention that Archie's song was solely about his friends who had notably been through hell and back, but the Jubilee was an event for the entire town. Archie and Jughead returned home that night to find his dad and Jughead's caseworker awaiting their arrival. With FP facing serious jail time and his mom out of state, they needed to make sure he was taken care of. Even though Fred had offered Jughead to stay with them, the state couldn't allow it due to a prior DUI and Fred's lack of funds. Jughead's caseworker informed him that there was a family on the south side that offered to take him in, but that this would require him to transfer to Southside High by the end of the week. The very next day, Archie visited FP at the sheriff's station to inform him of the recent developments surrounding Jughead's transfer. If there was a deal on the table, Archie insisted that FP take it. However, the Serpents were FP's tribe, and they were also innocent, meaning he'd never turn them in. Archie attempted to reason with FP as no one wanted to see him in jail for 20 years, but FP believed that Jughead would make it, and when the time came, he'd step up. FP warned Archie that Jughead would try to pull away from him, and should that time come, Archie and Betty needed to be there for Jughead to make sure it doesn't happen. Later that day, Archie was irate after witnessing the aftermath of someone vandalizing Betty's locker with pig's blood and hanging a Betty doll in response to her article pertaining to FP and the Serpents. He wanted to throw whoever was responsible into a wall. Betty was getting threats, Jughead was being thrown into a snake pit, and he couldn't do anything to help, despite being there all year to support his friends. In the student lounge the following day, Archie and Veronica learned from Betty that she had a long-lost brother who would be in his mid-20s at the time. Betty then received a call from Jughead, who had already transferred to Southside High due to the belief that no one wanted him at Riverdale, which is precisely what FP warned Archie of. So the three of them raced over to retrieve Jughead, but upon their arrival, they discovered that he was fitting in just fine. Right outside the school, as Betty and Jughead shared a passionate hug, Veronica noted the sincerity between the two of them, believing that they were soulmates. Veronica then got a message from Cheryl thanking her for trying to help, but she was planning to be reunited with Jason. After realizing that Cheryl was trying to end her life, the four of them made their way to Sweetwater River, where Cheryl saw Jason last. They pleaded with her to stop pounding on the thick layer of ice, but it didn't matter as the damage was done and the ice broke beneath her feet. Thus, Cheryl was dragged under. Archie, Jughead, Veronica, and Betty ran onto the ice, hoping to find Cheryl, but she had been dragged down by the current. Fortunately, Archie managed to find her a little further down, just beneath the iced-over surface. However, the only way to reach her was to break through the ice, so Archie did just that. He eventually broke through, but not without severely injuring his hand in the process. After pulling Cheryl out, he performed CPR and brought her to shore. Backstage of the Jubilee that night, Archie struggled to play the guitar due to the injury he sustained while saving Cheryl, leaving Veronica to question if he should be playing with the condition his hand was in. Archie assured her he could play, especially considering that his freshman year he played with a taped-up hand. Veronica recalled how Archie longingly looked at Betty and Jughead at Southside High during their hug, making her question his motives. Archie explained that from the moment Veronica was talking about is when he noticed how good Betty and Jughead were together, and it confirmed that he wanted to be that for Veronica. As Archie and Veronica kissed, they were interrupted by Josie, who had learned of Archie's heroic actions and decided to play his song as a show of gratitude. As promised that night, they performed Archie's song in front of the town, which they very much liked. After Betty's speech regarding Riverdale and the crossroads it was facing, Archie, Veronica, Jughead, and Betty celebrated over milkshakes at Pop's shop. Afterward, Archie returned to the Pembroke with Veronica, and the two of them had sex. Before taking off to have breakfast the next morning with his dad, which is what they did whenever Fred had something important he wanted to talk about, Archie gave Veronica a kiss goodbye. Upon his arrival at Pop's, Archie went to the restroom to wash his hand, but when he came out, he discovered that the shop was being robbed by a masked gunman. Archie looked to his father, who nodded at him not to interfere. Fred then got out of his seat, resulting in the gunman turning the gun on Fred and shooting him as Archie ran over to stop the incident. Fred lays on the floor, bleeding out in Archie's hands as the gunman swiftly exits the shop. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.